facing lots of problem because of hormonal imbalance. In case of females, basically after the later stage, that is when they cross 50, there are certain problems which are coming up in them. So, and even again we have heard lot about diabetes, where the hormone insulin plays a very major role. These are certain disorders or disease, you can call it. You can see from the picture. Can anybody say what may have happened to the lady there? Goiter. Okay. And that is because of deficiency of iodine. The person seems to be very tall from the average height. When we see the average height, it is approximately say 6.2. But he is having a height of 11 feet. So that is because of a hormone which has been secreted in more concentration. So the importance of hormones is very much in our physiology. So the objectives of today's session is one should know what is a hormone, what is an endocrine system, and what the endocrine system functions for. Basically, our body has two different kinds of glands. One, exocrine gland, and the other one is called as endocrine glands. Now, how they differ? Exocrine glands, sweat glands, salivary gland. Now, sweat gland and salivary gland, where the secretions are secreted into the duct, and the duct are released in a localized region. For example, saliva is secreted in the mouth and the sweat is secreted on the palm or in the forehead. Whereas when you think about endocrine glands, they behave completely differently. The secretions is secreted, it is stored in the gland, and it is released when it is required in the body. See, when we have talked about diabetes, we know that after the glucose amount is more in the body, insulin is released from the pancreas. So these hormones are released when they are required, they are stored in the gland, and the function is distinct. Like if they are secreted in a particular gland, it will act on a distinctly located gland. We'll come to it later. So, endocrine system, it is composed of various endocrine glands and endocrine cells. Together with the nervous system, act as a body communication network. The glands are capable of synthesizing and releasing special chemical messengers or hormones. Now see, when we say that there is some disability, or we can say some disorder, it is because of certain simple chemicals. We can call it as simple chemical locha, what is happening in our body. When these chemicals are secreted slightly more or less concentration, where we call it as hypersecretion or hyposecretion, they create problem in the normal physiology or normal working of the body. See, when we are talking about the environment, we know that whatever happens in the environment, we get triggered by it. When there is cold, we know we have to wear the jackets and all. When there is hot, we know that the sweat is coming in. That is how your body is reacting. In the same way, your body has to keep internal environment stable, where we call it in scientific term as homeostasis. That is stable condition, and this stable condition has to be maintained by various factors, and hormones and nervous system plays a very important role, where we call it as neuroendocrine system. So this is the definition of hormone. A hormone is a chemical secreted by cells or group of cells into blood for transport to distant organ, where it exerts its effect at low concentration. See, when you talk about saliva or imli, when I say tamarind or imli, immediately saliva will start secreting in your mouth. Okay, and that is because of a nervous system or the sensor what you have in your brain. Similarly, when you talk about hormones, they will not secrete as it is. Unless and until you eat, there is no secretion of insulin. Okay. So, and whenever these hormones are released, they are secreted in a very low concentration. They are secreted directly into the blood, and they will act on the distinctly located organ. See, these hormones play a very important role in the growth, in the reproduction, and the metabolism. So, from this, we understand that the endocrine system is a system of ductless gland that secrete hormone. Hormones are essential molecules. They are circulated into the blood, act on distinct target organs. Target cells respond to hormones for which they have their receptors. This is all the endocrine system in the human body. Now the whole endocrine system is basically having two concepts, that is primarily they are behaving as in complete endocrine glands and partially some organs behave as an endocrine gland. So when they are complete endocrine glands, example is pituitary, pineal, thyroid, parathyroid, adrenal gland. These are behaving as complete endocrine glands, whereas when the other organs of the body also secrete some hormones, then we call it as mix of para. So endocrine cells in the organ, one is pancreas, thymus, gonads, and hypothalamus. The picture which is being displayed is of brain. It is of brain, and what is pointed is the pituitary gland. So when we talk about endocrine glands, the master endocrine gland is the pituitary gland. Now this gland is called as master endocrine gland because it controls and coordinates the other endocrine glands for the secretion. Okay, so it regulates the whole control of other, for example, thyroid gland. The secretion of thyroid gland, the secretion of FSH, LH in the gonads, that is in the testes and ovaries, it is controlled by the pituitary gland, and hence it is called as master endocrine gland. So this endocrine gland is, this pituitary gland is it's a very small, it's a pea shape, maybe 0.5 grams in weight. Very important. You can see if the growth hormones are not released in the body, the child will be only 3 feet or 2 feet, and if it is secreted in a lot amount, then it can be tall, as I showed in the picture. So the pituitary gland, now I said it is very small, pea shape. It is present just below the midbrain. It is a part of a forebrain just below the hypophysis. It is connected to the hypophysis with a stalk which is called as infundibular stalk. It has two parts, neurohypophysis and adenohypophysis. I said it is going to control lot of activities in the body. I have mentioned few of it, that is growth, metabolism, sexual reproduction and lactation. Even our mood swings, our moods, our hunger, our thirst, lot of things have been controlled by the hormones. In all, pituitary gland secretes tropic hormones, and there are 9 hormones. 2 are secreted by neurohypophysis and 7 are secreted by the adenohypophysis. I repeat, in all, pituitary gland secretes 9 hormones, in which 2 are secreted by posterior, which is called as neurohypophysis, and 7 are secreted by anterior hypophysis, pituitary gland. You can see the posterior, which is oxytocin and ADH. So these 2 hormones, the oxytocin is called as birth hormone because this is very important during the parturition. Parturition is the process of birth. ADH, which is again very important. If there is hyposecretion of this particular hormone, then the concentration of urine differs. The other hormones is growth hormone, ACTH, TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone. I know these all terms are very, I'm going fast also because and these are all zoological terms and it will be difficult, I know, to understand. What is it? Thyroid gland. Thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, thymus, adrenal. This is all you know. It's pancreas. This is one of the gland in our body which does both the function. That is, it behaves as an exocrine gland also and endocrine gland also. Endocrine function we know because it is secreting insulin and glucagon. Exocrine function, it is secreting pancreatic juices, which is very important for the digestion of proteins and other components of the diet. Gonads. These are some abnormalities. Again, I told you that's because of the hyper or that is under secretion or over secretion. There are not many diseases which are coming in. You can see this picture. It is very similar to khali. You is a wrestler and he shows some symptoms of acromegaly. That is, his lower jaw is quite bigger than the upper jaw, and that is coming under acromegaly. That is when the growth hormone is secreted in more concentration once the person is adult. If the person is in the childhood condition and if it is secreted, then we call it as gigantism. But if that person is adult and then there is a hormonal imbalance of growth hormone, then the condition is called as acromegaly. This is cretinism. Again, it is because of thyroid hormone insufficient in infancy case. Now this is Cushing syndrome because of again adrenal gland, which is I told you one of an important endocrine gland. You can see the boy is looking very fluffy, and that is because of the hyposecretion of adrenal secretion, where all the fats have been deposited in various areas of the body. Again, some of the disorders, pancreas, you must be knowing, diabetes, thyroid, hyper and hypothyroidism. At the end of the lecture, I'll just sum up with this thing. That is why these endocrine glands are important in the body. One is to maintain the internal homeostasis, that is the balance of the body. Second, for the growth, because every now and then your cell has to be recovered and apoptosis is taking place. It has to again divide and grow. So all this is because of the growth hormone. Then coordinate development and coordinate reproduction.
Good. Very good. Very good.